They promised a new kind of justice. Swap for 24. Walk in someone else's life. Giant ads pulsed across the skyline. Influencers beamed as they streamed signups, and the city cheered. Peter Parker watched a teenager sign a waiver on a live feed and felt the old nod of caution. Bruce Wayne watched from a darkened window and counted risks the way other men count breaths. For a while, it was spectacle. Fans woke up in celebrity suites, politicians took factory shifts for a day, couples tested each other. The rush of novelty blinded most people to the seams. Then the seams split. A public defender signed a swap for perspective and woke in the body of a delivery driver with a Sharps container, a torn court notice, and a violent X on the doorstep. A beloved actor swapped into a nurse's night shift and saw grief so close it clung to him. He returned to cameras and found his partner accusing him of being cold because she had watched his bedside hour and expected change, not performance. Curiosity turned into moral obligation. You lived them. Now act like them. The city's social ledger filled with new debts. Markets smelled opportunity. Corporations sold trial careers, CEO for a day, influencer for an afternoon. The poor rented their days to cover rent. A shadow economy blossomed. Black sites offered unvetted swaps with no consent checks, brokers trading slips of identity for cash. Power concentrated in the hands of those who could buy other people's experiences. Identity liability became a new policy product. Insurers wrote folding rules to cover harms the law had not yet named. Laws lagged while lives were rearranged like chess pieces. Exploitation escalated into malevolence. Syndicates weaponized the intimacy of a borrowed hour to plant memories, erase alibis, manipulate votes. A whistleblower leaked encrypted logs, timestamps, target lists, payoffs. Evidence showed how a senator's morning had been redirected into a protest scene, how a defendant's confession had been manufactured in another body. The city's outrage was volcanic. Protests swelled. Lawmakers hurried to stem the hemorrhage. Heroes responded. Spider-Man hit the streets, unspooling webbing through alleyways to catch swap peddlers mid-transaction. His quips masked the ache of each person he freed. Batman infiltrated server vaults, his hands steady as he planted pattern disruptors and copied data logs. Iron Man tore open control panels and rerouted cores. Black Widow moved like a rumor inside boardrooms, extracting ledgers and names. Strange and other mystic allies monitored for temporal anomalies that technology couldn't explain. Each skirmish revealed one brutal truth. Someone had been collecting hours like trophies. They found the archive in a warehouse under the river. Rows of humming pods, amber glows, lives held like specimens. At its center stood the architect, a man who argued he had only tried to save what loss had taken. "We preserve hours so they cannot be stolen by time," he said, voice smooth as lacquer. Behind him were lists, IDs, dates, the metadata of feeling. He believed cataloging grief made it safe. The heroes saw it as theft. Battle ripped through the archive. Drones shrieked. Containment fields distorted breaths. Spider-Man bounded through a tangle of cables to pry open a pod, while Black Widow cut a lock with surgical calm. Iron Man's repulsors tore a control rack. Batman planted a disruptor on the central sink. The architect released echoes, shimmering phantoms of hope and terror from stolen days. And for a breath, the room filled with other people's laughter and cries. Peter saw a child's face in a ripple and felt a guilt heavy enough to steady him. He yanked the master key and smashed the console. The pods exhaled. People blinked back into their own skins, coughing like survivors surfacing. Release did not tidy the moral mess. Many returned, altered. A nurse's cadence nested in a banker's voice. A soldier's flinch in a teacher's smile. Laughter that belonged to another mouth. Clinics opened to debrief and treat cross-imprinted memories. Therapists taught people to unlearn habits that weren't theirs. Courts convened to address culpability. Was guilt bound to the hand that struck or the mind that occupied it? Judges tempered sentences after experiencing a defendant's desperation. A prisoner who had lived a victim's day confessed and began to seek reform in ways law alone had not compelled. Regulation moved in like a slow tide. Emergency laws banned commercial and political swaps. Only vetted educational and therapeutic programs could operate under oversight. Swap centers required consent forms, biometric locks, mandated counseling, and public registries. Insurers rewrote policies. Exchange protocols became public goods instead of secret commerce. The black markets fractured but did not vanish. Men with cash and little conscience still found backrooms. Public life altered. Corporations faced boycotts. Leaders who'd once cheered the app now defended strict limits. New vocations emerged: swap debriefers, identity therapists, ethical auditors. Schools taught consent as a practical skill and taught empathy as practice, not spectacle. Murals appeared across the city. Half faces overlapped, the caption simple: consent, care, consequence. But the deepest change was subtler. Spider-Man noticed it in small acts. An employer who had once used a trial career to get publicity now fixed shift schedules after actually spending a day on the line. A politician who had swapped into a community organizer's body pushed for housing reforms. Batman felt it in policy rooms where technologists and ethicists argued not just what could be done, but what should be done. People began to ask before they acted. Do we have consent? Will this heal or harm? Are we taking responsibility, not just experience? Not all wounds healed. Some who had lent their days for rent found themselves haunted by fragments of other lives. Some who had been abused in borrowed bodies carried scars the law could not erase. The thirst for meaning, to know another's pain without the slow work of relationship, remained a temptation. The city learned to guard against it with laws and clinics, with art and education, with communal rituals that honored what had almost become commodity. The final lesson settled like dust. Empathy bought in an hour could teach, but it could not substitute for attentiveness sustained over time. Understanding another person was not a product to be consumed, but a responsibility to live into. The giant ads came down. The swap centers closed their profit wings and opened counseling rooms. Spider-Man kept swinging, landing among people who now sometimes looked at him and remembered, not spectacle, but the weight of taking someone else's step. Bruce kept pushing for oversight, knowing his own vigilance must be steady. On a gray wall by an austere community center, someone stenciled the message that would outlive slogans. Swaps are for learning, not profit. Beneath it, a line formed, hopeful, wary, human, a reminder that the city had not solved its hunger for quick fixes, but it had chosen, painfully and imperfectly, to value consent over celebrity, care over convenience, and consequence over convenience. The world had changed. The lesson was clear and costly. To know another's life is to be entrusted with it, and entrusted lives must be treated with respect.